Everyone, welcome back to another Built in Ohio podcast. We have a special guest. We are really looking forward to this conversation. As you know, Built in Ohio, we talk with tech leaders from across the state, from startup founders to Fortune 500 executives. We've had elected officials, we've had economic development leaders, but probably, Steve, one of my most favorite conversations are business owners that have created their companies, built their companies, and have been doing it a long time. Tech is something that it's every company out there these days, from IT departments to technology first businesses. But I love small business stories. True Built in Ohio, which is the name of our podcast. So our special guest today is Steve Cross from iSynergy in the Mahoning Valley. And Steve, welcome so much. Really appreciate you joining us. And if you could, tell us a little bit about iSynergy, what you're all up to.
First, Chris, thanks for having me on. iSynergy, we're based in Canfield, Ohio, just outside of Youngstown, northeastern Ohio. We're an integrated digital marketing agency. Integrated meaning that basically we don't do everything inside our four walls. We can close the loop when it comes to website design, engineering, all the way to programmatic advertising, SEO, graphic design, copywriters, content marketing, the full gamut. So that's founded in 2011, so we're about 12 years old now. So that's about us.
I love it. I love it. And if you could, tell us a little bit about the founding story and how it came to be. Again, small businesses, there's a bunch of them across the state, and what we've found is businesses like yours are kind of the least told story, because if you're a startup, you raise a bunch of venture dollars, you get reported on, and people kind of know about you. But there are all these tech companies and digital companies that have just been doing what they're doing for a really long time, and they have these great stories to tell. But it's just kind of, unearthing them and finding, being able to tell them, and, certainly well known in your part of Ohio, but, across the state. And that's kind of what our whole mission is connecting and promoting for all this.
Yeah, my story, I think it's maybe a little bit different. I left my six-figure job in '08 in the middle of the recession.
Talk about
Um,
good timing, huh?
yeah, right. I still to this day I can hear my eventual father-in-law, tell me it was how dumb I was making that decision. Which it was. It was a terrible. It was me just having an ego at the time. But I got tired of corporate America and middle management. I just got tired of that tiered system of explaining what I was doing, why I was doing it on a daily basis, and that grind. And I think there's a lot of people out there that understand that and have been through that. So I just finally got fed up with it. I also had, personal stuff. I had shared parenting of my kids. I was commuting an hour to Pittsburgh when I was doing it. So I was losing a lot of time that I had fought for them. And it was that time in my life where, oh, money isn't as important as time, and that was what I was going through personally at that time too. So I said, heck with it, left and ended up starting my own company. And like I said, yeah, I didn't have a seed round. I didn't have no venture capital. It was all my own money. And I crack up because, my first year, my billables, my entire invoicing was 32 grand.
Wow.
I really crushed it that first 12 months. So I laugh about it now, but, it took a couple of years to get started. But there's some key points along the way. I still have my very first hire with me from back then. I'm a big culture guy, focused on that, and being progressive. I think that's another thing, and I think that's why I bring a unique perspective to this show, is because we don't do any like R&D in house. We don't have our own product. We don't capitalize on certain technology. But from our perspective, is I always have to know about the other technology that's coming and that's out there, basically for use or for my clients' use. So it's not like I need to know what's going on with AI and who's integrating with what with OpenAI and what they're bringing to the table in a competitive manner. It's more about how can I capitalize on this in my own efficiencies inside my four walls, and also use it to, help my clients' lives.
Yeah, I love that. And it's basically all of us that aren't actually developing that tech. So,
Yeah.
you're not working at OpenAI. It's like there's the race for that, but then there's also that second race of the people that are going to utilize it. In this case, again, things like AI. And we see it with, like, say, teachers, for instance, because in the education space, there's an incredible interest in AI, and you have like a few of these teachers across the state that you start to meet, and they're the ones kind of pushing it, and they're on the leading edge of how do they incorporate the technology within education, or some of the banks in the state, for instance, financial services companies that aren't building AI in the sense of like open AI, but they might start building some tools kind of after the fact, or as all this is happening. So I kind of love that
secondary market,
second wave of adoption that really matters. But I want to go back to starting the company. $32,000 billable year one. When you made that leap, what was that like? Did you have a client when you went from, 0 to 1 the next day?
Nope. In true hothead fashion, I did not have anything. I didn't even have a domain registered.
Wow.
Nor did I didn't even have an LLC. It was literally, I just can't do this anymore. It was ill prepared. I started this, and still for years, we ran with, our direction was what we knew we didn't want to be. Which I'm not sure if that's uncommon or common, but I hear a lot of stories of, hey, I wanted to develop this. This is what I wanted, and they knew where they were running to. I knew what I was running from. So I don't know if that's unique or not, but that's how we did it. And it took years to figure out who exactly we were and find our niche, here in the area. But that was it was rocky times.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the first hire. After how long did that take to go from starting it to hiring that first person?
2 years.
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when did the hockey stick take off?
Year three.
Okay.
And it's funny because my first hire, I wasn't even hiring. She came into my office, said, "Are you hiring?" I'm like, we might be. I don't know. You try to play it cool when you're a single offer. I had an office because market, you had to have that presence. I had to have that physical presence starting out. I felt like I did, because I didn't have a network to rely on or to capitalize on. And then, I spoke to my wife, and I'm like, she's like, "You're hiring. She's going to make more money than you did." And she did, like, the first 2 years. And I'm like, yeah, but I felt like something was right. You have that intuition. I'm always a firm believer in following my gut. You just know sometimes, or sometimes you just like, we need to walk away from that. But that's 2 years. And we hockey stuck that third year. We jumped up to over that, 300, and then we doubled with 600. Then we were like 1.2, and we've just been growing since then.
Yeah. What was something that you mentioned that you knew you didn't want to do as you were building the company and talking about culture? I assume a bunch of the, middle management, corporate America reporting type things. But as you were building it, what were some of those kind of key focuses that you were, trying to, I guess in this case, not emulate, but in the roundabout way, you were trying to emulate, the exact opposite of these things?
Yeah. Definitely a flat business, right? Without middle management, without any management, to be honest with you. And I knew we still have clients today that I'm pretty sure don't even know I own the company. That's just kind of the leadership style that I have is, I never say I'm the boss. I never use that. I think it's a terrible word. I lead my team. I never say somebody works for me. I always work with my team. And introduce everybody as like that. I'm the creative director. I know you've initially said that I was the CEO or the founder, but I don't ever use that term. I just don't like using it. I don't know why, but I always felt like the team might not take offense to it, but I wanted them to be empowered and to know I'm in the trenches with them. That was always my go-to. I'm part of the team. I'm leading the team, yes, but in the management, I always explained it as whenever we were going to do a pivot, or I'm probably too transparent with my staff when it comes to what we're doing, how we're doing it. A little bit less now, but in the early years, and I always explained it as everybody had a seat at the table and everybody had a say, but not everybody had a vote. Meaning they were involved in the discussion. I was always open to that input, but at the end of the day, obviously I was the one that had to make the decisions. But you get people that you trust, and you allow that trust to lead your day to day.
I listened to a podcast of an entrepreneur, and she was asked, and the company's done quite well at this point, and was asked about something that she was the most proud of, and she mentioned she's done everything at the company, like literally everything at the company. And I think that's unique in a lot of businesses, because again, if you kind of have a venture company, not all, some are very kind of 1 or 2 person shops until, you raise some money. But there's others that kind of come out the gate pretty quick with a lot of money and they go higher. And so that CEO or some of that leadership doesn't necessarily know what it's like to do every single part of that job. And certainly in corporate America, as you get, up higher up and jump from company to company, you don't know what it's like to do every single little piece but I bet you do. Like,
A lot of it. Yeah. There's still, by no means am I taking the credit away. Like, do I log into WordPress? I have a login.
Right.
Last time, I don't know the last time I logged into a site, but there's things like that. But like on the SEO side, I built our SEO department from the ground up. So that's the different things there. But yeah, it's a different, a unique perspective when you're not having that influx of dollars, and you just got to grind, and there's no one else to do it. Something like as simple as weeding the outside the building. I mean, to the flower bed. Yeah, it needs to look nice, and I'm not paying a groundskeeper. You know what I mean? Like, it's as simple as that. You just got to show up and do it.
Yeah, for sure. So, what does iSynergy look like today? We talked kind of about the founding and the origin, but what does it look like today? What's the team look like in terms of, what are people working on? How many? And then I guess more importantly, what type of work are you all working on?
Yep. Well, we're a little bit different today. Now, we're still small when you speak of the national landscape and who we compete against. We compete against, the hubs, East Coast, Chicago, Nashville, Dallas, Texas, everywhere in Texas, basically now. And we're 20 people. We're in Northeast Ohio. We kind of seem big for our area, but who we compete against, they have hundreds of employees. But that's our niche. We're small. We there's a time where I realized and made my mistakes and realized that not all revenue is good revenue. There is such thing as bad money. So we went through some clients, and we have a great client base. I always explain it as the front door. That nobody walks in our front door and everybody's like, oh man, so and so is coming in today. We don't have those clients. We know who we are now. We know who we work best with, and we look for those and make those connections. We probably I go through and don't take on a majority of our leads that we even receive, just because I know it's not a great fit for us. And being able to get to that point is a great feeling, right? But that's on the sales side. Internally, the flat concept is great until you get to a certain point, and then it's not scalable because I can't be there with everybody.
Right.
So we did just last year implement like a VP structure and a director structure, because everybody wanted to know it was more for the growth. People, just coming out of college, how do I grow with this company? If it's flat, then you're not giving them a plan to grow the company, to grow their career, which was a huge limitation in that flat landscape. So we did implement that. Now, did we change very much? No, there's a lot of titles. That's about it. But we gave them a plan on how they could grow. And it's funny too, because in the beginning, when I hired people, I just let them pick their own title. I'm like, I don't care what you want to be called. Put it on your LinkedIn, whatever makes you happy. Because it didn't matter to me. I don't care.
Right.
So we did implement that, and it's good now because as we're growing, I never wanted to be more than like that 10 or 12 person shop. It wasn't my goal to roll the world. I don't want to have homes all over the country. I just want to do a good job. I want people to trust me. My reputation is really big. And knowing another role here for local clients, the supermarket role. I want to be able to walk down the supermarket, and if I see a client or ex-client, I want to know that I can walk down that aisle and I don't have to put my head down and turn and go to a different aisle. I can have my head held high, knowing we have good relationships. We were honest. We always do the best we can for all of our clients.
That's awesome. What's a perfect, you kind of talk about, passing on opportunities, which you're absolutely right. It becomes you have to work towards that to be able to pass up business. But what does that perfect client look like today? And I'm sure there's a lot of shapes and forms of it, but when someone comes to you and your eyes light up and it's like, this is going to be awesome.
Number one, they want to be a disruptor.
Yeah.
That's it. They want to go against the grain. They want to be a disruptor in their space, or in their organization. A lot of times, the demographics of that, we're all over the place. We're all over the globe. We have clients that are 5 people, in their organization, and then we have clients, that their marketing department's bigger than my agency, but they still utilize us. But it's all about that mindset. They want to be a disruptor. They're in hyper growth phase. That's what they want to do. And they like being a contrarian. That's kind of how we positioned ourselves. And they have an idea of where they want to go and how they want to get there, but they're not a dictator of this is the way I want to go. I'm sure you talk to people and they're like, hey, I just want you to execute this. I know exactly how to get there. I just don't have the people. That person is not for me. And it's not for us, because what we bring to the table is that creativity, that outside of the box approach that they might not have thought of. And if they're not open to that outside of the box approach, we're going to be battling, and that's not a good place to be with a client. But disruptor is the number one. They want to have growth, and they want to disrupt their industry. That's it.
What about, you mentioned
across verticals. I'm sorry. Across verticals. There's so many agencies, and I get told every day, hey, you got to get vertical specific, and or just narrow your services and just be an SEO shop or just be a dev shop. I didn't listen to any of it.
What about in-person remote? You mentioned 20 people on your team. You have an office, which I got to visit a couple months ago. Are you still is everyone still on the team in person? And how have you navigated that? Because you talk with 10 companies, you're going to get 10 different answers.
Yeah, right.
And some are finding success, and others are like, no, privately, they're like, no, this isn't quite working, and we got to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a right answer, and like that covers, that's an umbrella. I think it has to fit. I think the right answer is individual for each company. For us, we rely on collaboration with the team so much that I felt, and I still do feel, that we would lose something for our clients if we weren't in a room together sometimes. So when we came back in, we have a remote policy. We also, we have the trendy stuff, unlimited paid PTO and blah, blah, blah. But our remote policy is it just has to be approved by the VP. If you're the VP, I think they get like 5 or 10 days of remote where it's just on their calendar and they can do it when they want. But they all know, and I trust them, if we're in the middle of, we're at the last 10 yards for a project or for a campaign or for whatever it may be, they're not going to be taking their remote days then. They're going to come in because, hey, I need to be face to face. The rest of the team is grinding. I need to be there with them. Now, great thing about that is no one here has taken advantage of it. It's worked out real well. The disadvantage, and I know it's a disadvantage, that my talent pool is limited to around here, right? But, I just take it as, my talent pool is limited. Yeah, but I'll take my 1 hour commute around Youngstown and everybody that is here has to offer against anybody. They may graduate higher. They may be, their IQ may be up there, and they may be part of the startup scene. But there's something about Ohio, and I believe specific to Northeastern Ohio, where the work ethic is there, the inquisitive nature is there. They just want to be part of something to help grow it, and they're willing to grind it out with me to get there for the clients and get them where they need to be. So while others maybe look at it as a limitation, and I've been told plenty of time on sales calls that how can you possibly have the talent there to work for me? But live or die, that's where we're at, and that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I love it. And I love, one, your pride for Northeastern Ohio, specifically Ohio, kind of this part of the country, but then also, there's companies that are ebbing and flowing, and they're doing this one week and this the next, but you've picked a thesis, and it's working, and you've kept it, because I think it's really easy to pull up the Wall Street Journal or something and see what the latest kind of trends and all of this is. I got to open it up to everyone, and then you're kind of you look up 6 months later and be like, this really didn't work well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's times where I've been a little too focused in my ego, maybe probably, that I probably should have deviated sooner, but in different things. But it is who we are. It is what we it's how we do it. We've had great success, so why move from it?
Yeah, well, and I'd love to kind of dig more into the Northeastern Ohio pride, the Ohio pride, just the Built in Ohio show, Silicon Heartland, all that fun stuff. But when you and I first connected, that really came through of just your passion for doing this in Ohio. And then even though you have clients, literally across the globe, and I remember some of the countries you were mentioning, where you're working with these people and disruptors and industries. But you're incredibly proud to be doing this in Northeastern Ohio, doing it as a Buckeye. Where does that come from?
Oh, geez. I don't know. Maybe my father. Now we're getting in there, right?
Yeah.
I would probably say my family, my father,
Okay.
grandfather, their work ethic, the people that I looked up to, and that were steadfast. And my father was a union guy, Youngstown, Ohio. Put the
Yep.
association together, right?
Yep.
He was a machinist. Started out, he was in the Army. Became a machinist, went through the union, entered the ranks, and he actually retired. He was down in Maryland at the international headquarters. He was on just outside of the E-board, the council. So he grew, no college education. To ask him, he's like, oh, I probably barely graduated high school, went to the Army, but it was just his work ethic, his passion just to perform and to over deliver what people were paying him for. And I think that's where I get it from. It's just, I don't know. I've never really thought of that, but it's just the pride I guess I have in my family and the area. You hear about it all the time, especially now that it's probably been even more reinforced now that I go up against competition all over the country, where they have uh, this ego, like you're Ohio's the redheaded stepchild. Like, no, like we're here, I can compete. Like,
Right.
I can do everything you can do, and I'm going to do it better, and I'm going to do it faster. So I think probably that challenging part and that competitive nature, I grew up in sports, so that probably had something to do with it as well. But so.
Yeah. Well, I
And
was
big
going to
shout
say,
out to the Buckeyes. They just beat Notre Dame, right? We got to
well,
get
yeah,
that on
you
there,
grew up
right?
in Ohio, and I know there's in the Mahoning Valley, there's a lot of Steelers fans, but you grow
Yeah,
up with a lot of people as Browns or Bengals or there's Ohio State. It there's just a lot of city pride. There's a lot of state pride,
yeah,
and it's that's one of the most fun things about this is like especially with tech, and it feels like Ohio is back in the game. So I'm from
yeah.
Northeastern Ohio. I'm from Akron, where you talk about Youngstown and Akron, two areas that,
Very
have had
similar.
their hard share of times. Um, but these things are coming back, the Intels and flying taxis, and you see these big tech names coming from the coast and like putting $1 billion investments in. And there just isn't, for as diverse as Ohio is. Like I remember going from Northeastern Ohio to Southwestern Ohio for college. And there was a bit of a culture shock
Mhm.
because I wasn't from that part of the state. And things like Skyline Chili and which high school you went to, and high school football rivalries. I was kind of looking around. I was like, I didn't go out of state to college, did I? Like it's 4 hours away, which isn't that close, but there's just like it's such an Ohio pride that even with those rivalries of kind of sports between some of the cities, um, yeah, people are pulling for the Buckeyes. You're not a Buckeye, an Ohio State Buckeye. You're still a Buckeye, and
Yeah,
it really
exactly.
is special. And that's one of the more fun things I've gotten as I'm going on my Ohio rant now, but uh, we get people
We,
that listen to this
we
even
all are.
from across the country, and they're from Ohio, and they'll say, hey, I'm in Silicon Valley and I work at some big company or some big startup. And sometimes they want to move back, and other times they're very content with where they're living and working. They just want to root along, and they want to
Mhm.
you know learn about stories like yours, and find out about why is Intel coming to Ohio and bringing this new industry and doing all this cool work. So it's a special place, and sometimes it can be a little tough probably to put it into words, but for me, but it's really incredible. It is.
Yeah, and you touched upon one of the things that's is become here locally in our area. One of the things I've kind of tried to take the lead on is, when kids are in high school, college, when they're going through their career path, of letting them know, not just from marketing, but all the brands and companies that are around us,
Yeah.
that they don't have to go across the country to feel like they're being fulfilled in their career. We have a lot of great things here, and a lot of great brands, a lot of great companies, a lot of great leaders, mentors. You can get that now. Now, I don't know if that's always been the case, but I know here, I didn't leave the state to go to college. I went up in Baldwin, Wallace, but I ended up. I always told my kids to leave. I want them to get away because travel, experience
Yep.
something new, being uncomfortable, but they can always come back, right? It's a great place to live. It's a great place to raise a family. But the talent, I just wish that the kids growing up and leaving would know and give us a fair shake
Yeah.
on sticking around, and before they just know right off the bat, because you talk to so many people, nope, graduate college, I'm out of here.
Right.
I wish they'd just give us a fair shake, and I think that they would be pleasantly surprised if
Yeah.
they did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, we could go down that rabbit hole for much
Yeah.
longer, but to keep us on track, Steve, let's now kind of switch to some of our questions that we ask a bunch of our guests, and it's just fun to get perspectives from different people, different parts of the state, different types of technology jobs and careers and companies. But the first one that we'll go with is, what's a favorite book, podcast, or show? So a read, a watch, or a listen that you've been into lately. And so it could be something that you visit once a year for work and you come back to it, or something that you're just kind of recently binging to, check out of work at the end of the day.
Yeah. My first million was a podcast that I listened to. I got into that with Sam Parr, and then the Trends group, and I think it's a great group to be a lot of like-minded people that just want to raise community. But that's one that is always my go-to.
Yeah, and those ones are great. I mean, and it's, what's the other one on like NPR? That's somewhat like How I Built This.
Yeah,
Yeah, some of those stories where it's like those
it's
early
so fun.
days, because it's very easy to look at the big companies that are
Yeah,
successful now, but everyone forgets that all these businesses had some type of start, and there's typically an amazing story behind it. So,
yeah.
question two is, if you had $100 million that you had to put towards one type of challenge, problem, but bring a technology solution to that. Doesn't mean that the tech right away will solve it, but you have to invest it. So think, almost like $100 million in venture capital, big bet, something
Mhm.
that you want to change, or a problem or issue you want to tackle. What would that be?
It would definitely be in the medical, probably towards baby boomers, but I think it would be. I think there's some medical there for like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
Yeah,
There's tech there, and especially now with AI bringing into that and attaching that into the brain, and they've come so far. It's not like 100% tech focused, but I think there's a real need there.
yeah.
It's definitely.
Absolutely. I love that. And why I love asking questions like that, because I don't know if you've heard, but it's called the Neurotech Institute, either for you or for people listening. But Dr. Tim Lucas came to Ohio recently. And it's a joint venture between Battelle and Ohio State, where they're spinning up this new institute, the Neurotech Institute. And he's literally out there recruiting researchers and scientists and doctors from across the U.S. And every time I feel like I talk to him, he's coming or going to somewhere to get someone to come back here. But it's this
Awesome.
stuff, exactly, that tech side, and neurological and brain research and solutions, and again, a fantastic big bet joint venture between Battelle and Ohio State, which I've absolutely loved. And again, why I love asking this question, because you mentioned something, and turns out
Yeah,
there's a bit of an Ohio play at tackling some of these big challenges.
for sure. Yeah, that's awesome.
So next question, perfect Saturday in Ohio, in northeastern Ohio for you. What are you doing? How are you spending it?
Kids, right? Depending on the season, it's right now we're in the middle of football season, so we have flag football. We have the little guys are in tackle football as well. If we don't have games like that, then it's hopefully my wife and I we can hit a round of golf, and I can try to cheat and beat her. Um, but that's it. It's family. It's a Saturday. It's whatever the kids are into, that sport or that. My youngest, he loves the piano, so getting him into that. And then we end the day just sitting together, board game, something like that around, just interacting together. We're a big family, big on that,
Love
being at the house together.
Final one. Say someone is listening. They're going to be up in Canfield, Youngstown area
Mhm.
somewhat soon. Where are you recommending they get a cup of
Mm.
coffee? Where are you recommending they go out for a good meal?
Oh, geez, there's so much. I'm drawing lines here. I'm going to make some enemies. Well, Youngstown, it's the pizza capital of the world, right? It is.
Yeah.
We got some competition out there, but there's nothing like Youngstown pie. I would say Mary's Pizza, Lisbon, Ohio. It's about I don't know, 8 to 10 miles just south of here in Canfield. It's an amazing pizza pie. It's real thick crust, nice sauce. But that's where I would send them.
Okay. All right. Love it. And again, I love asking those questions. It's sometimes, dangerous when I do it around lunchtime or getting close to dinner, but that's a good problem to have because the list keeps getting bigger and bigger. Well, at some point, Mary's Pizza, is that right?
Mary's Pizza,
Mary's
Lisbon,
Pizza.
Ohio. You bet.
All right. Well, next time I'm up in the area, we'll have to get a slice and keep talking. But Steve, really appreciate you joining. Thanks so much for talking and sharing your story on here on Built in Ohio. Thanks for diving in recently to the work at Ohio X. Really appreciate that. As a final kind of opportunity, anything you want to share with this community? How can they connect with you, learn more about iSynergy, or just kind of plug anything else that you got going on right now?
Yeah, iSynergy.io. If if you're interested in any help, hopefully, I mean, we do SEO, so hopefully you can just Google iSynergy and you'll find us if we're any good, right? But other than that, I just want to say, Chris, thanks for having me on. I think you're doing great. Keep up everything you're doing with Ohio X and the group and rallying the cry. I'm just here to help and help wherever I can.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And yeah, it's absolutely fun because this is my favorite part of the job, getting to meet people from all across the state. And as we like to always say, like the hard work's happening. We just got to get better at bringing it together and promoting it to both within the state, but then outside the state. Because yeah, we'll put up Ohio solutions and companies and ideas against anywhere in the world. The Ohio against the world, which has been in the news lately.
Yeah, right. Damn straight.
Awesome. Well, Steve, thanks so much for joining. Everyone listening and watching, thank you again for tuning in. We'll link to Steve and iSynergy in the comments, so you're able to go click off and take a look at them, and feel free to connect on LinkedIn or give them a follow. Appreciate everyone. Again, we thanks so much for tuning in. If you could, 5-star review always helps, and let's get more companies like Steve's discovered. So have a great day, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. See you soon. Bye-bye.